You are sweeping out an old abandoned shed in your backyard. The air is thick with dust, but you don't think much of it. It's just dirt. You finish the job, wash your hands, and go about your week as usual. 14 days later, you wake up with a mild fever and muscle aches. You assume it's the flu. The symptoms are identical. You take some painkillers and wait. But on day 17, the air starts to feel heavy. Your lungs are filling with fluid. You go to the emergency room. The doctors are baffled. It's not the flu. It's a pathogen that doesn't need a bite, a scratch, or a cough from another human. It just needs you to breathe in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is hantavirus, and it is one of the quietest, deadliest viruses on Earth. Unlike movies where viruses spread through sprawling, panicking crowds, hantavirus isolates you. It hides in the shadows of the wilderness, in attics, barns, and crawl spaces. So, what exactly is this invisible threat, and why does it strike so unexpectedly? To understand hantavirus, we have to look past humans and focus on its true host: rodents, specifically mice and rats like the deer mouse or the cotton rat. These animals carry the virus their entire lives without ever getting sick. They go about their days foraging, nesting, and leaving behind droppings and urine, and this is where the danger begins. The virus thrives and survives in these excretions. When the droppings dry out, the virus waits. It can survive in the environment for days. Then someone comes along. A hiker opening a cabin, a homeowner cleaning a garage. A broom sweeps across the floor, a gust of wind disturbs the nest. The dried virus particles are suddenly launched into the air. This is called aerosolization, and the exact moment you take a breath, the virus enters your respiratory system. It bypasses your initial defenses and makes its home inside the cells of your lungs. For the first 1 to 5 weeks, nothing happens. The incubation period is completely silent. You go to work, you buy groceries, you live your life, completely unaware. Then the early symptoms hit: fever, fatigue, and severe muscle aches, especially in the large muscle groups, thighs, hips, back, and sometimes shoulders. About half of all patients also experience nausea, vomiting, or abdominal pain. Because these symptoms mirror influenza or a stomach bug, it is rarely diagnosed early. But 4 to 10 days after the initial phase, the real nightmare begins. The virus triggers an extreme immune response. Your capillaries begin to leak. Fluid floods into the alveoli, the tiny air sacs in your lungs responsible for oxygen exchange. This condition is known as Hantavirus Pulmonary Syndrome, or HPS. Patients describe the sensation as if a tight, heavy band has been wrapped around their chest, or simply a feeling of drowning from the inside out. The mortality rate for HPS is staggering, around 38%. That means nearly 4 out of every 10 people who contract it do not survive. To understand how terrifying this virus is, we have to rewind to May 1993. The location is the Four Corners region of the American Southwest. A young, physically fit Navajo man is rushing to the hospital. He is struggling to breathe. Despite being in perfect health just days prior, he dies shortly after arriving. The medical staff are shocked, but the tragedy takes a darker turn. They discover that his fiancée had died just days earlier. Her symptoms were identical: sudden catastrophic respiratory failure. Word spreads across the region. Other doctors start realizing they've seen this before. Several other young, healthy adults in the area had recently died from unexplained lung issues. Panic sets in. The media calls it the Navajo flu. The CDC sends a team of specialized epidemic intelligence officers to investigate. At first, they suspect a new strain of influenza or perhaps a plague carried by fleas. But all the tests come back negative. It isn't a known respiratory virus. The investigators start interviewing families, retracing the victims' final weeks. They test local water, insects, and wildlife. Finally, deep in a lab at the CDC, researchers find a genetic match. The killer isn't a new virus. It belongs to a family called hantaviruses. But this specific strain is entirely new to science. They name it Nombre. Sin nombre translates from Spanish to the virus without a name, but finding the virus is only half the battle. They need to find how it's spreading. The breakthrough comes from the local wildlife trapping data. In the spring of 1993, the Four Corners had unusually heavy rainfall. This rain caused a massive explosion in the local plant life, specifically piñon nuts, and with endless food available, the local deer mouse population multiplied rapidly. More mice meant more droppings meant more virus in the environment. When people started cleaning their sheds and barns for the summer, they were breathing in lethal doses. The mystery is solved, but the Sin nombre virus remains an endemic threat to this day. While Sin nombre attacks the lungs in the Americas, Hantavirus has another, older identity. In Europe and Asia, different strains of hantavirus cause a completely different disease. It's called hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome, or HFRS. Instead of drowning your lungs, these variants attack your kidneys and blood vessels. Western medicine first collided with this nightmare during the Korean War in the early 1950s. Over 3,000 United Nations troops suddenly fell violently ill. They suffered from internal bleeding, kidney failure, and extreme fevers. Around 10% of those infected died, completely baffling military doctors. It wasn't until decades later, in 1978, that a South Korean virologist isolated the cause. He found the virus lurking in the lungs of striped field mice near the Hantan River. This river gave the entire viral family its permanent name, Hantavirus. Today, tens of thousands of HFRS cases are reported globally every year, mostly in China and Russia. But whether it's Old World strains attacking your kidneys or New World strains filling your lungs, the mechanism of transmission is always the same: rodent droppings, dust, and a single, fatal breath. So what happens today if you breathe in the Sin nombre virus and develop HPS? Because it progresses so violently, time is your only currency. There is no specific cure. There is no FDA-approved antiviral drug. There is no vaccine. The only treatment is aggressive, extreme life support in an ICU. As your lungs fill with fluid, simple oxygen masks stop working. Doctors will insert a breathing tube directly into your trachea. A mechanical ventilator takes over, physically forcing oxygen into your drowning lungs. But sometimes, even maximum ventilation isn't enough. Your lungs are entirely compromised. This is when doctors deploy the absolute last line of defense, ECMO, extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. It's a machine that bypasses your lungs entirely. Thick tubes pump your dark, deoxygenated blood out of your body. The machine oxygenates the blood artificially, turning it bright red, and pumps it back in. It buys your body the time it desperately needs to fight off the extreme immune response. If you survive the critical phase, the recovery is miraculously rapid. The fluid leaves your lungs, and most patients recover with no long-term damage. But getting to that recovery is one of the most grueling medical battles a human can endure. Since we can't cure it, the only way to beat hantavirus is to never breathe it in, and prevention comes down to how you handle spaces where rodents live. Rule number 1, never ever sweep or vacuum dry rodent droppings. Doing so instantly aerosolizes the virus, putting it right into your breathing zone. Instead, you must ventilate the space. Open all doors and windows for at least 30 minutes. Next, drench the droppings and nesting materials with a bleach solution. The bleach breaks down the lipid envelope of the virus, destroying it on contact. Only when the area is completely wet should you wipe it up with a paper towel. Seal the waste in a plastic bag, wash your hands, and you've neutralized the threat. Hantavirus is rare. In the United States, there are only about 20 to 40 cases a year. You are astronomically more likely to be struck by lightning, but its rarity is matched only by its lethality and its total lack of warning. It reminds us that despite all our modern medicine and technology, we still share this planet with microscopic predators. Predators that don't need claws, teeth, or complex strategies to take us down. They just wait in the dust, silently resting in the dark corners we ignore, waiting for you to take a breath. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about the invisible forces shaping our world, make sure to subscribe.